Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back. It is returned.
We're back.
We're back.
Again.
Again. We're back again.
For our third season of F1 Fantasy Week.
Incredible. And that's why F1 Fantasy League this year is named F1 Fantasy League, F1 Fanatics League 3.0.
Nailed it.
We're like Valtteri, apart from every year we do improve. No, you can't say that. That is bang out of order.
I'm sorry.
You cannot say that. He tries absolute best, and he does his job for Mercedes. Have they won every Constructors title since he's been there?
Yeah.
Have they won every Drivers title since he's been there?
Yeah.
Just because he's not the one doing that? Unbelievable. What a way to start F1 Fantasy on a downgrade. Car. But anyway, F1 Fantasy Weekly's back. We're not sure how many videos we'll do, because obviously there's still a little bit off to the season.
Feels very early.
Yeah. It feels very early. So what we're going to do is, today's going to be like a reaction to kind of like prices and stuff, our general first thoughts of it, couple of new features on our general first thoughts to that. And then next week, again, we'll do a proper F1 Fantasy Explained video. And then there may be a little break until maybe previews, because relevance
Yeah.
of... as much as we love F1 Fantasy Weekly, the reason why it's been a break through the whole winter, because the previous winter, we tried to drag it out as much as we could.
Yeah.
And now we're at the stage where we go, we're just going to give you it when it's relevant. But when it's here, it's amazing.
Yeah. If stuff changes and happens, we'll do like a Fantasy Weekly. But yeah, be this week, talk about new features. Next week, fully explained. And then we'll be doing our preview reviews. And the season, hectic season starts.
Because it will just be thick and fast.
Yes.
In the 23 race calendar, if that goes ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, some people may be hoping for a break. But then, right, initial reactions. Stephen, would you like to get the prices up?
Okay.
And we'll give our initial thoughts. Now, we've both looked at it. We've both picked teams. But I don't know if we've looked necessarily too much in detail each individual prize. So here is our kind of thoughts, and we'll give our kind of, as usual, our bargain picks, probably for what we think are people who are going to do well.
Yep.
And people who you think avoid. And yeah, there has been one pricing on the Constructors, which you probably know who I'm talking about, which I think is going to make the F1 Fantasy game very interesting this year.
Should we start off with the drivers?
Yeah, let's start off with the drivers.
Okay. Most expensive driver, ridiculously. This guy isn't even good. It's Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton. Just signed. Obviously, he was announced on F1 Fantasy last week. Mercedes were just a bit slow getting the press release out. But yes, 33.5 million. Very expensive. That's gone up 2 million from last year?
I believe so.
Yes. Although now he's signed, it's kind of looking like a must.
Yes.
Lewis is... We'll come on to Mercedes, the team. Well, we could do... No, because we'll go from expensive driver to cheap driver.
And then we'll give our overall thoughts.
So we'll come on to the team later, but I think Lewis is the must pick for your top team.
I think you have to have some form of Mercedes, whether that be Constructor or one of the two drivers, and Lewis Hamilton would be the pick out of the three. And I don't think you can have any more than one.
Yes, exactly. Max Verstappen is number 2, 24.8 million. It's surprised he's pipped Bottas there. I guess maybe they're thinking teammate points. He'll get more than Bottas. Well, actually, sorry, there's some fantasy points, and I think Max did beat Bottas fantasy wise.
I'm sure he did.
So that's sorry, I'm thinking too much into it. But yes, Max is 2.
24.8.
Decent. Considering there's about 10 million difference, the drivers you could put alongside Max could make a difference.
Yes, that's what I do think. And that's one of the things I like. They've gone for the top end, you're going to pay for the top end. But do you risk going slightly below, but you know someone in Max Verstappen is still going to do very well? Can you then cover up those points somewhere else?
My only thinking is we could have a Bahrain doubleheader at the start of the season. And Mercedes are going to be very strong there.
Yes, yes, they are. Yeah, correct.
Which brings us in at number 3 as the alternative cheap top pick, I guess, with Valtteri Bottas at 23.6 million, which is ridiculous. It's like absurd how cheap Bottas is.
Oh, I was going with, I don't think he's worth it.
Yes, I'm also inclined to. I have a feeling.
If there is there's like a million difference between him and Max Verstappen, I just think, why on earth would you pick Valtteri Bottas? Because Max is, we're expecting Checo to do well, but Max is the majority of the time going to win those teammate battles. So he already gets those bonus points, and he's most likely to beat Bottas anyway.
But Bottas is ridiculously cheap. If you want a Mercedes in your team, Bottas could be that Mercedes.
But there's a reason why he's that price.
Yeah.
That's also important to know.
But there we are. Only 3 drivers above 20 million. Only 1 above 30.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah. The rest, everyone else we will talk about, can be turboed, including the next man on the list, Checo Perez, 18.4 million.
I feel like I want to put him in there, but there's also this reserve in me of going, do I gamble on Checo? Because I still need to see that the thing with Checo last year is majority of the time he was effective because he was going to get teammate points and teammate bonus points. If you don't have Max, I suppose he's probably quite a good one to get because go from there. And if you can get Lewis Perez and still some relatively decent team, that's going to be high scoring points. Yeah.
Well, depending on how strong the Red Bull is, he could be nicking podiums every other week or something. Which
in that case,
which is a very strong turbo,
incredibly attractive as an option.
But yes, what are we up to? Number
Ricardo.
5.
Yeah,
17.3 million. Ricardo. Very expensive. For a McLaren, I'm not too sure on.
Yeah. Daniel Ricciardo feels to me like Carlos Sainz did.
Last year, yeah.
I think Daniel's a fantastic driver, and I think he will do really well. But he didn't necessarily settle straight away at Renault. So it's his first season at McLaren, and he did do fantastic, yes. And I know they got 3rd in the Constructors, and now they've got the Mercedes engine. But like you said, there's too many unknowns to invest that much money. For just $1 million more, is it?
Yeah.
1.1 million more, you could get Checo, and that's a much more assured package. Or for
0.5 million less, you could get Charles Leclerc in the new Ferrari. I just think Charles Leclerc is one of the bargain buys. I know for 16.8 million, that doesn't sound like a bargain buy, but I just have a good feeling about Ferrari. It may be completely misplaced, but
in fairness, if history goes by anything to tell us, it's probably misplaced. But Charles Leclerc pulled out some incredible performances last year. And if he could just if the Ferrari was just slightly more competitive, he's still going to have an incredible season.
Well, he would be well up in this midfield battle. And he's probably the best driver in that midfield. If you put in Ferrari with McLaren, Aston Martin and Alpine, Leclerc's probably the best driver there. Unknown. He's unknown.
Yes. But of what we know in the knowns, Charles Leclerc is, yes.
Yes. Fellow teammate, but now gone to Aston Martin. Sebastian Vettel, 16.2 million.
Too high.
Yeah.
Far too high.
Again, with Ricardo, it's more about, I'm not sure how Aston Martin will perform.
Yeah, the Vettel and Ricardos of the world, I would steer clear with an absolute barge pole at those prices. You might gamble and they might come off. And then in that case, you can laugh at us and say that you've won big. But I think in fantasy and in fantasy games, you always want to go with people who are consistent and a bit more of a known quantity, especially at the start, because you go, well, at least if they have a bad week, they won't have a horrible week.
Yeah, exactly. Fernando Alonso is the next one, 15.6 million. That's pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable for a guy who's going to be getting those teammate points. He is... Yeah, okay. Your thoughts?
Within me, I really want to back him. And as it currently stands, he's in my team. As that driver between Perez, Leclerc.
Yeah.
He's at the bottom end because I just think value for money out of those top guys, you're getting a lot. Because he traditionally is the teammate destroyer.
Yes.
And I know Ocon
and that gets you points in fantasy.
And that does get you points in fantasy. And I just think if there's anyone, I mean, it's typical Alpine talking up big and this could backfire thing. But they said, we are targeting race wins this year.
Well, there we go then. Get Fernando in your team.
But obviously, I don't think that realistic might be the case, unless obviously we have the drama races, which there's every possibility of this year that Fernando would be the one to capitalise on that. But he's a very interesting... I toy between, I'm like with you, Charles Leclerc is really appealing, Fernando Alonso is really appealing. I'd rather go with those ones than Checo, Ricardo or Vettel. That's what I'm leaning to at the moment. Okay.
Our next tier of drivers, the teammates of the guys we've just talked about and one other. Carlos Sainz, 14.4 million. Don't pick. Okay, I have a good feeling about Ferrari, but they're an unknown and Leclerc's going to beat him. So I wouldn't go near Sainz for 14.
Yes, with all due respect to Carlos Sainz, a good Formula One driver who's performed very well at McLaren, a guy that I believe probably should have stayed at McLaren, but the allure of Ferrari, you can never kind of begrudge a guy from wanting to go to race for the prancing horse. But I just don't think he's in the same ballpark as Charles Leclerc as a driver. So I think...
He just beat Lando Norris last year and Leclerc's on another level. So...
I mean, another level is an understatement on that basis. But yes. Carlos Sainz.
Lance Stroll, 13.9 million. Again, no.
I think... No, but if I was going to pick one of the Aston Martin drivers...
No.
No. I think if I was going to pick one of the Aston Martin drivers...
It'd be Lance Stroll?
Yes. Well, for the price, because Vettel's up with the other guys, because that car still, realistically, should have finished third in the Constructors last year. And not too much has changed. I don't necessarily think he maybe get teammate points, but I think he's still probably going to get you some solid points.
Maybe.
Around that bracket. So I wouldn't pick him, but if I was going to pick an Aston Martin driver, I'd probably pick him in the price range at the moment.
Okay. I disagree, but...
There you go. Disagree. Wow, shut down. Let's hear you out about
people
Lance.
Close the gap between them, the midfield, and Aston Martin. Lance is going to struggle big time to gain the points. Full stop.
So might Vettel.
So might Vettel, but again, I didn't say pick Vettel.
No, but I said I wouldn't pick the Aston Martin guys, but if someone was forcing me into a corner, you've got to pick one of them, I'd pick Stroll.
Okay, fair enough.
That's what I was getting at.
Next up is Lando Norris, 13.1 million. This one I think is more... Out of the second teammates, Lando Norris would be the only one I would pick.
I'm opposed because I think Lando has been getting much better at qualifying, which then means that he's a disaster in the race because he usually loses positions.
No, but he's been getting better in the races.
No, I agree. But I think you're more likely to see with Lando Norris, and at that price, a guy... You see, Lance Stroll's qualifying isn't very good, so he usually makes up places. So that's why I was like there. And look, what's the price difference between the two? About that is quite a lot.
0.8 million, just to confirm.
Oh, jeez. But Lando, I just see Daniel Ricciardo beating him. I think at 13.1 mil, he's not appealing at all whatsoever.
Oh, Jesus. Seriously?
Yeah, whatsoever. Because last year, it was appealing because him and Carlos Sainz were very close. And you go, well, we might get some more teammate points.
Yeah, but remember, Norris is
qualifying.
Third year at McLaren, whereas Ricciardo's first year.
Yeah, but Ricciardo's a much better driver.
Maybe towards the later stage of the season, he may be battering Lando every week. But I think at the start of the season, Lando has a chance to...
Ricciardo's a much better driver.
Yes.
And he's a much better driver than Carlos Sainz, and Lando Norris lost to Carlos Sainz.
Yes. Okay.
And
there we go. I shut down Stroll, you shut down Lando. But both of us say you could pick them.
you could pick them in some bizarre world. But look, I think the teammates, Norris, Stroll and Sainz, they're just no-nos for me. Their price is just... Unless they take like a radical dip in price, steer clear.
Yep. Next up is Pierre Gasly, not a teammate, but the first of the AlphaTauris, 11.7 million. I think that's pretty cheap.
I have Gasly...
AlphaTauri, yeah.
I have Gasly in my team just because I think he's another surprising factor.
Yep.
And I think he, at 11.7 million, is far more attractive than a Norris, Stroll or Sainz to me.
Yep.
That's what I was going for.
Teammate points. We love Yuki, but Gasly is vastly more experienced at this stage and loves that AlphaTauri guy. So
yeah, I mean, Yuki at 8.8 mil again is...
We'll come on to that.
We will.
Esteban Ocon, 10.1 million. Not going to dwell on this. He's going to lose to Fernando Alonso. There's better picks there, including Kimi Raikkonen at 9.6 million, which, although seems high, Alfa Romeo, Kimi, new Ferrari engine. Am I making it sound appealing at all?
I don't know. I don't know. I just think Alfa Romeo, obviously I said last year, I think I said Alfa Romeo would be the better of the two Alphas. How wrong I was.
Yep.
How wrong I was. I just don't know how big a gap they can close. And I don't know how much the engine... Because I feel like if there's someone who's going to get the main benefits from the engines, it's going to be Haas. Because they've gone... Hello, Tara. They've gone up tenfold in terms of their investment in Haas.
Yes. Yeah. Table attack.
Tara, as always, is
okay. So Kimi
infused by the bookshelf.
Just like Esteban Ocon, Kimi's like a no.
But no, I would more pick Kimi than Esteban Ocon.
Yeah,
because
teammate points.
There we go. But Giovinazzi was getting better.
Yuki 8.8, cheap rookie. Not the cheapest rookie. We'll come on to the other cheap rookies. But 8.8, decent, but he's going to take time to adapt to that car. He's probably going to lose out to Gasly. Maybe towards the later end of the season. could be the
Gasly beat Kvyat, who I thought was a pretty underrated driver.
Yeah.
Gasly is just leagues ahead in his development of Yuki Tsunoda. This is going to be a kind of real grounding season for Yuki.
Yeah.
Even at 8.8 mil, I don't think you go anywhere near him.
Unless AlphaTauri are looking good for a particular weekend, it's probably best to avoid.
Yeah, even then though. I mean, well, yeah.
Well, it's like a cheap pick in your team.
Yeah.
Antonio Giovinazzi, the other Alpha driver, 7.9 million. So that's a 1.7 million difference between him
Probably
and Kimi.
reflects how close they are.
Yeah.
Because in qualifying, when Giovinazzi gets it, he can beat Kimi, but Kimi generally in the races beats him.
And well, last year I remember Gio was one of the good budget buys. He went up in value and he actually got you decent points.
And I think that's why. But he started off like 6.8, didn't he? And then moved up to like 7.5 or whatever, something like that. So I think starting out at 7.9 is a little bit tricky this year.
I don't think it was too far off 7.9.
It might not have been.
Next up
Rox
is...
or someone will have like stats on that.
I remember Rox was the one that backed him. Turned out to be a very good pick. Nicholas Latifi, 6.5 million. The more expensive of the Williams drivers because he qualifies terribly but makes it up in the race by just default. From retirements, he gets points.
I feel like George, though, had a lot of issues last year.
Yes.
And obviously in fantasy have the great qualifying drops places back.
Williams' new investment could close the gap.
This is so close between because there's only 0.3 million in it.
Yep.
My gut instinct says to go with Russell because he's the better driver, and I just feel.
If you're going to back a Williams, it's probably Russell.
And as he's cheaper as well, it makes it more appealing to me.
Yep. And on to the final two, the Haas drivers of Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin at 6.8, 5.8 for Mick, 5.5 for Nikita. Both very cheap picks. It's very difficult to tell who would actually win the driver between them. The only thing with Nikita is he does push the limits. Will he get slammed with penalties? Will that cost him fantasy points? Mick's bits may take more time to adapt to the car, but it's going to be more solid, more consistent.
I think the easiest way to look at this is Mick is the consistent guy.
Yes.
One of his biggest strengths as a driver is consistency.
Yeah.
Nikita Mazepin is less consistent, but may be capable more on a day of getting a really good pace. So,
yeah,
Nikita, you'd be going, I hope I've picked him on a really good weekend, where Mick may get slightly less points on one week and slightly more. Then he won't like massively crush Mazepin either way, but I think consistently over season, a bit like Nicholas Latifi did, he'll
just a solid point that
just rack up points.
Makes up points in the race.
Yeah. So Mick Schumacher was my pick.
Yes, I would agree.
And I think obviously, people will be picking Mick over Nikita for other said reasons.
We're trying to look at it objectively.
Yes.
Those are the drivers. Onto the teams.
Onto the teams. Mercedes.
Yes, onto the teams. Mercedes. 38.0 million. Outrageous. I mean, I'm not happy with that price. It makes the game interesting because it basically goes, you can't pick Mercedes unless you're going to sacrifice your driver lineup in some way. Just because Mercedes, you have Valtteri Bottas as the unknown. Will have Red Bull close the gap enough that Max will be consistently beaten Valtteri? And in which case you may as well go for your second pick on this list at 25.9 million. That is what is that, 11.1. Am I thinking that right?
No. It is
12.1?
Yes. 12.1 million difference.
With Red Bull. There we go.
Which
Got
is
there in the
basically going through some of those lists, getting in someone like a Gasly, Ocon, Raikkonen.
end. Exactly. I just think that's a better bet than going for Mercedes. 38 just seems so high.
I obviously, initially when I was going into the game, I was like, right, staple heart of it, Hamilton, Mercedes, and then realised I went,
You can't do that.
no, can't do that.
Which I guess is fair enough. They're trying to change it up.
So on that decision, you go, oh, that's frustrating. But overall, my feelings were really positive about this because I think it adds a lot of variety.
Yeah. Well, people are going to be picking different constructors now, and there's more of a legitimate strategy rather than going crazy on constructor and losing big to everyone with Mercedes.
Yeah.
But now not everyone is going to have Mercedes. Well, maybe. People may still back the Valtteri
If I'm being
Bottas
honest
and
with
Lewis.
you, it could just work out that instead of everyone picking Mercedes, everyone now picks Red Bull.
It could do, yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people, flirting with Aston Martin, Red Bull, McLaren, Red Bull included in there. Strangely enough, no one's gone for Ferrari. I think maybe a couple of Alpines from there, but I don't know.
Just thoughts on Mercedes and Red Bull.
I think Mercedes is a good price to go too high, but by doing that, people might have been flirting between Mercedes and Red Bull anyway, and I think people are just going to end up picking Red Bull.
Red Bull. For 25.9 million compared to Mercedes, it just seems an absolute winner in terms of money-wise.
And I also think you're guaranteed more success than McLaren, Ferrari and Aston Martin, and the price difference between those guys, is not even 10 million.
This year you also have a very solid lineup at Red Bull.
Yeah.
Whereas last year you had the unknown of Albon. This year I feel it's more the unknown of can Valtteri hold on to second.
How are Ferrari?
We'll come on to that. McLaren now third, 18.9 million. We'll run through the midfield. Well, this group of cars because they're
because
kind of
obviously
in a
we
batch.
don't want it to go on too long, so we'll do quick fire this because
McLaren,
constructors are there.
8.9.
Not worth it.
Ferrari 8.1.
Not worth it.
Well, okay, they could be worth on some weekends.
Some weekends, but I just think Red Bull consistent. I always go, like I say, consistently wise. I think Red Bull consistently will score more points than McLaren, Ferrari, and Aston Martin.
Aston Martin 70.6.
Not worth it.
This is just going to be everyone. Alpine 15.4.
Not worth it.
AlphaTauri 12.7.
And we can just go AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, Williams, Haas.
Not worth it.
Not even in contention. Not even in contention.
Okay. I actually feel like Alpine, Aston Martin, Ferrari, and McLaren could be decent picks on some weekends.
And the fact that we'll move on to it, you can get 3 subs.
Yes.
You can do a little bit more of a
exactly
look at practice and pick who's going to do well for weekends.
Yes. But those are the drivers, our reaction to the drivers, our constructors. We kind of powered through the constructors because we only pick Mercedes or Red Bull. And clearly the rest are not worth it.
Look, I just think I think with Red Bull, but the difference between Red Bull and Mercedes is a big driver. The difference between Red Bull and a McLaren, who I think, and a Red Bull and Aston Martin, is about 8 million?
Yeah.
And you're talking about that saving you, giving you the ability to get the Giovinazzi, Tsunodas.
Yeah, it's not really worth it, is it? Okay. Let's move on to the new features.
New features. Unveil. Let us know.
First, I'll say Mega Driver. That's the same. That's still here. That hasn't changed.
That was a great addition, though. Did enjoy that.
Yeah, 2 times a year before the sun break. We'll talk about them all next week. Wildcard has slightly changed, I believe. Because there's now a maximum of 12 substitutions you can make. But they're all free. But you can only make 12. Looking at me puzzled.
So you have to really be sure.
Yes.
when you kind of lock in I guess
when you change your team and click save, that's all the substitutions. You can only make 12 subs.
Well, technically, were people using their wildcards to make a lot of money in a week?
Possibly, yes.
Because I feel like that's the main feature, what they're trying to stamp down on. Is
They've
the
still
money
said
teams.
you can use it as dynamic pricing, but yeah, maybe putting the cap on 12 does reduce the impact of making money from the wildcards.
Yes.
There we go. That's the feature to the wildcards, but you've got 2 of them a year, maximum of 12 subs. And then the new feature, which we've kind of touched in and out of, is subs banks, where you get three subs, and then you get an additional 3 subs, each of a -10 penalty, each game week. So each game week, you can only make a maximum of 6 substitutions. 3 of them are free, though, and 3 of them are the usual penalty.
Yes. If understanding, obviously we're going to look at this one definitely in a lot more detail next week, but my reaction is I feel like it is something that the people who made the F1 fantasy game looked at and went, well, I want to stop that.
When you say that, it's referring to the money.
Yeah, the money-making teams. Because it then is almost like playing stock markets, wasn't it, in terms of pricing? And people, we know we had people message us last year who were like, can you promote
yes.
buying Haas stock and then dumping it?
Yeah.
To get like an increase in budget. And we were like, sorry, what? What's going on?
Obviously, the people that did it did a great job of it. We had Rox, who did a very good job with it, and it was part of the game. It just seems like a massive change to dynamic pricing, which they only introduced last year.
Well, I feel like they were like, oh, this would be a cool idea. But then they realised that it isolated the majority of players away from being competitive in it. Because people... The main point of a fantasy game is to try and get those players playing the duration of the season, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to keep them engaged, because that's keeping them engaged with F1 content, which then means that, you know, they can be exposed more to F1 stuff on the website, adverts, blah, 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 probably in some concept, then making more money.
Yeah.
With F1 Fantasy, by the money-making teams, you had to be really dedicated. And, you know, I know people were like watching the market completely, switching in, switching out, and just like dedicating really essentially to the game. It didn't give an unfair advantage because it was within the rules.
Yeah.
And, you know, it did that. But it lent itself more to the hardcore players. And regardless, those players will play fantasy anyway.
Yes.
What this move, I think, for me does is means that the casual players might play that bit longer. And then that allows the game to grow.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it.
Yes. It's going to hurt the people that enjoyed playing the markets, but then it's going to benefit people that just, like you said, casually play it, who now have more options to play around with on a game week. So they have 3 free subs.
Yeah. Well, we'll use a comparison with IndyCar Fantasy. But, because, hear me out. Listen where we're going.
It's completely different.
It is completely different, but this is what I'm going with. So in IndyCar Fantasy, you get 4 drivers with a budget to pick, but they're 4 fresh drivers each week. So you turn up at a race and you go, okay, so this race favours blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go with pick these guys and who looks good in practice or whatever from that front. It goes from there. You then get bonus points for correctly predicting the top 3 drivers. Or
in the actual race.
Yeah, you have to get the actual position. So you can get first and second wrong, but you will still get bonus points for third. And obviously it's a gradient list. If you get first right, you get more bonus points for that. And then it has a tiebreaker for that. I feel like this move doesn't go... Quite Tara's just going around having a shout at it. She just goes through mornings of just shouting. So if you hear her in the background, that's the reason why she's doing her thing. But I feel like F1 Fantasy has gone a bit more towards that method, that you can change your driver lineups more for race per race, rather than just once you selected things, the punishment for switching out drivers of a -10 meant that once you selected a team, bar wildcards, that was pretty much it.
Yes. Especially if you weren't playing the markets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like it gives a little bit more flexibility, and I don't know if they've looked at that. I presume they haven't looked at it, but I think it's a smarter move.
Yeah. But there we go. I think we've done the drivers, we've done the teams, and we've looked at the new features. I had a look. I don't think there's any more new features. There we go. They're just cutting down on substitutions per week, basically, whether that's wildcards or just normal weeks. But yeah, Fantasy is back.
It's back.
That is our initial reactions.
That is it.
Be back next week with explaining.
F1 Fantasy explained, and then we'll probably I reckon we'll do F1 Fantasy explained, and then what we'll do is we'll wait until testing. Yep. And then after testing, so we have a better idea of where teams are going to be. Obviously, you can't take too much from testing, but you'll have a better than the picking blind that we are now. And we'll do a week of picking our teams based on what we've seen from testing going into the first race.
Yeah.
Before, obviously, then the preview.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. So let's know your thoughts in the comments below. Who's in your initial picks? I know everyone was getting excited picking their teams. I will also leave a link in the description down below to the F1 Fanatics Fantasy League if you guys want to join that. We had a great number of you compete last year. D. Phillips was obviously victor in the end. He won a kind of Formula 1 top of his choice. That's on its way to him now. So that was fantastic. So again, we'll do the same thing. So there are prizes to be won in the F1 Fantasy League, and it's just somewhere that you can share your love of fantasy. But comment below, what are your thoughts? And if you're new around here or haven't done so already, Stephen,
you can like, subscribe, and ding that bell.
Dig it! So for now, you F1 fans, keep racing!